All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by our beer of choice, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0, Johnny Cuba, European roots with a Caribbean soul. Start your evening with a refreshing German lager in a can. Last night, maybe you were enjoying a six-pack of Johnny Cuba during a really good come-from-behind victory by your favorite little basketball team. Go pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba at Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie's. Remember, always drink responsibly. And of course, Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. And joining us here is our pal, the television voice of your Miami Heat. He is Eric Reid. Good to have you on, Eric. So how do you experience the game last night? You know, it was a TNT exclusive game. I imagine you were in attendance last night. Do you like that change of pace every now and then where you could just kind of watch the game?
Occasionally I do, Zaz. You see the game very objectively. I enjoy it like the rest of Heat Nation or those fortunate enough to have, tickets at the Miami-Dade Arena. And I've gotten to sit next to my wife and my brother-in-law and some friends, I think 4 out of the last six games at home. So, and they've all been wins. So we've enjoyed it. Last night was particularly gratifying to see Miami down 10 with under 9 minutes left, a 15-0 run, a great second half of defense. And Zaz, I thought it was one of the most meaningful wins of the year for this reason alone. Usually when you shoot that poorly, God bless you. Usually when you shoot that poorly, the rest of your game goes down the drain with your poor field goal percentage. Last night, that did not happen. Their rebounding, their defense, the ability to force turnovers and then make some timely plays in the fourth quarter. They shot 36% and beat the Celtics. They haven't shot that poorly in a win since March of 2010. 2010. Wow. So that is obviously the worst they shot in a game this year and won. But to play that poorly on the offensive end and still find a way to get a win, I know that made Coach Spoelstra happy because to him, it's playing to his team's identity with excellent rebounding over the last 7 games. The defense that you can now hang your hat on and forcing turnovers as it's the only way the Heat have been able to generate enough offense. They're still the lowest scoring team in the league, but when you force 17 turnovers and only commit 8, that goes a long way. And listen, Bam was terrific. He had one of the best second halves of his career last night. Haywood Highsmith, I thought, had the best game of his career. Not only his 15 and his 10 rebounds, not only his 9 points in the fourth quarter where he didn't miss a shot and made 2 huge threes, but his second half defense on Jason Tatum was phenomenal. Now, the Heat were in zone a lot, but Highsmith was picking up Tatum full court. I thought he made his life miserable in the second half. He held him to 10 points and helped force 5 turnovers on Tatum in the second half. And Tatum, who's outstanding, he's an MVP candidate, had 3 points in the fourth quarter of that game last night. Zaz, at one point, the Celtics missed 10 straight shots during that 15-0 Heat run. So gratifying win. You split the season series with Boston 2-2. And you found a way to get it done on a night where your offense wasn't very good.
I want to talk about Haywood Highsmith for a second here. I've been saying for a while now, I want him in the game in the fourth quarter. He's a great defender. Obviously, the three-point shooting, it's improving. Some nights like last night, it's there. Why will there be games? Now, I understand Jimmy didn't play last night, but why will there be games where he doesn't play? Where, look, they held him to 13 points in the fourth quarter last time. I think this guy, you got enough. If you're fully healthy, you have enough offense out there. If you got Hero, Butler, Bam, maybe Oladipo's also on the floor too. You got 4 guys right there that can give you the offense. You tell me Highsmith, can't be a guy who plays in the fourth quarter. I like him.
Well, last night he played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. Bam, Strus, Gabe Vincent, and Highsmith, those 4 guys, 3 of them undrafted, all played the entire fourth quarter. Listen, I think I'm going to trust Coach Spoelstra on how and when he uses Haywood Highsmith. You do have Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin on most nights. Victor Oladipo has been a finisher, but the hot hand and the great defense prevailed. Spo said after the game, I asked Spo in his post-game press conference about Highsmith's performance. He said he couldn't take him out. Caleb Martin couldn't get back into the game, played less than 12 minutes. Highsmith played over 30. Haywood's a serious kid. So is Orlando Robinson. So is Jamal Cain, the undrafted rookie, played 4 of his 5 years at Marquette. It's incredible, Zaz. I mean, I think universally in the NBA, everybody understands there's not a better franchise in discovering and developing undrafted talent than Miami. It's incredible to have 10 undrafted players on one NBA roster. But, we see it night after night. And I thought that was just a beautiful game for a guy that went to Wheeling Jesuit College, a Division II school in West Virginia. He played in the G League a number of different times. He played overseas. And this is a kid that's hungry and wants it. He's working on his game hard. And his defense, the 15 and 10 was outstanding. The 9 fourth quarter points helped win the game. His defense against Tatum did win the game for Miami.
Bam was a major star last night. He was taking and making all the big shots there in the fourth quarter. I love that it was on a national stage where, let's say that, and look, the coaches around the league, they know how good Bam is, but, coaches vote for those reserves for the All-Star game. And I think Bam made a case post-game there with Jared Greenberg. TNT said I should be in Salt Lake City. I like that he said that. Let it be known. Number one, do you believe he's got a chance of getting into the game? And number two, I think it's pretty clear this is a player who is so far removed from the guy that we saw last year in the playoffs, who was hesitant, not aggressive enough maybe at times, especially against Robert Williams in Boston in the playoffs, though Bam had a phenomenal game 7. This is a different guy. This guy, he gets the ball and he attacks. There's no hesitation anymore, Eric.
I think, we're seeing the best of Bam, and this is the Bam we're going to see for the rest of his career. He doesn't have to say it. He's doing it. He's playing it. He's showing it every single night. I thought it was the best second half of his career. He had 21 points and 12 rebounds in the second half. And before I dive into Bam totally, in that 15-0 run, started with a couple of Highsmith threes, then 3 straight scores for Bam, and then the hero 3. So those were the guys that engineered that 15-0 run. But Bam, listen, nobody has said this yet. I said it this morning for the first time. I'm going to say it again to you. He's one of the most improved players in the league. He is a go-to player on offense. I think the Heat's first option now offensively, get the ball inside the Bam. Everything else comes from that. I think the three-point shooting should improve with the number of paint touches. With the increased paint touches for Bam and Butler, it should help the three-point shooting, which has been a liability this year. But Bam has become the number 1 scorer in the NBA in the paint. And that doesn't mean just under the rim. Anywhere from that foul line down, I always say from the dotted line, those jumpers from the dotted line. I mean, he is signing on the dotted line. He is almost automatic in the paint. And, he's getting 16 shots a game. He's now a bona fide 23-point, 10 or 11 rebound per game guy, plus the defense. The offense has gotten, extremely good, way better. And the defense hasn't suffered at all. He's still giving you the great D, all over the floor. And he's rebounding as well, if not better than he has in his career. So I think he's one of the league's most improved players. I think this is the Bam we'll see at minimum for the rest of his career. And I'd be shocked if he doesn't make the All-Star team this year. To me, he's a lock.
You know what else I really like also? The game doesn't have to all be about three-point shooting. That was the talk in the offseason. Oh, Bam, he's got to add the three-point shot. Why? No, he doesn't. Why can't he just continue to improve at the things that he's already pretty good at? Like, why can't he become even better at all of those things? Why does he have to add a three-point shot? I mean, now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying he's going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, but, nobody wants Giannis shooting threes. Keep doing the really great things that you're really good at. Why can't Bam do that? And that is clearly what Bam has done. He doesn't need to be a three-point shooter.
Whoever said he did? I mean, you never heard Eric Spoelstra say that. You never heard any intelligent basketball people say that. You got maybe some fans, maybe some media people. I don't know who was saying he's got to shoot the 3. I think what Bam wanted was to be more involved offensively. Maybe he thought at one point he needed to increase his range, and he has. He's 15 to 16 foot money. So now it's not about where the shots are coming from, it's the frequency of those shots. And I'm telling you, he's the number one offensive
Yeah.
option for the Heat right now. Is get Bam the ball on screen and roll whenever he's got position down low, get him the ball. It's Miami's best way to score. So I don't think he's thinking at all about increasing his range. It's increasing the volume
Yeah.
of that offense. And listen, the league has gone crazy for threes, but brother, whether you add it up by 2 or by 3, as long as you have enough at the end of the night, what's troublesome is when you're not making enough threes and yet you're allowing too many. And we saw a couple of recent games at Dallas was one. There had been a couple of recent games where the Heat have really got out tripled, and that's hard to overcome. So you got to make enough to keep you close. But listen, I personally, I just feel like the game has gone crazy for the
Yep.
three, and
Yep.
it's not going back anytime soon. It's just not.
You can't tell me, like, I understand three's better than two, but two's better than zero. You can't tell me that a wide open 15-foot jump shot is not a good shot for most of these guys. And, the Heat have guys who do take that shot. Butler, Hero, Oladipo, Bam. They use now, they're not a great offensive team. Like you said, lowest scoring team. They play at a slow pace, but they use the entire half court. Like, there's something to be said for you're bailing out the defense if all you're doing is 3 and key. Make the defense defend the entire half court. And I think the Heat do a good job at doing that.
I do too, Zaz. Listen, I talk to a lot of people that know more than me, and ask questions that I have, and the importance of 3-point shooting is obvious, but some people feel like any three is a good three. I don't personally feel that way. I think how you get your threes goes a long way in whether you're going to make the threes. The pull up off the dribble, jack them up threes, unless you're Jason Tatum or
On
one of those,
shooting from
or
the
Steph
logo, the
Curry.
three you dribble into the front court, you're shooting from the logo. It's ridiculous.
It is really, especially early in the shot clock. Even when Steph Curry does it, you sometimes cringe. When anybody else does it, you really cringe. I think it's hard to play with guys that take those kind of shots early in a shot clock possession. Listen, I believe in ball movement. I believe in the drive into the paint, draw a defense in, kick it out. The paint touch, draw a double, kick it out. When you're getting those kind of threes, you live with the make or miss nature of 3-point shots. And this year, listen, it's been a weakness for the Heat. Last year, it was an obvious strength. Miami led the league in 3-point percentage last year. They're in the mid-20s in a 30-team league this year. Their two best 3-point shooters, Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, are closer to 30% than they are 40%. Here's an unbelievable number for you. Only 6 times this season, and we played 49, 50 games. Only 6 times has Miami shot 40% or better from 3 in a game. Wow. 6 times. They did it 31 times last year. Wow. They were over 50% 8 times. So it has fallen way off. I think what Coach Spo is hoping is that the offense will come around, and with the defensive habits and taking much better care of the basketball, getting offense off your defense and forcing turnovers, hopefully that can balance out an offense that has had difficulty generating enough points in many of these games.
Did anyone ask Coach after the game last night about Lowry sitting the fourth quarter?
No, nobody asked about that. But I just think, that's the way he went. Listen, I know you have not been a big fan of Kyle Lowry. Let me remind you about the New Orleans game when he had 17 points 2 games back and scored 9 in a row in the fourth quarter to help win that game. It's clearly not Kyle Lowry in his prime. He's in his 17th year. He's in his mid-30s. He's closer to the end of his career than he has been at any point. I still find great value in Kyle Lowry. He's a leader. He's a winner. He's a quarterback. You don't find many of those guys. Now, does he have that great quickness to get himself into the paint like he used to? No, some of that has waned. Eric Spoelstra is a good judge on when to use him a lot and when not to use him a lot. The Heat, at times, when they don't have their quarterback in, they got other guys that can handle it, like Bam and like Jimmy, and Tyler has improved in that regard. So I think it's how you use Lowry moving forward. He's had 3 straight games with right around 25 minutes or less, but I still see value in Kyle Lowry. Didn't play in the fourth quarter, had a miserable shooting game, and Zaz, he had plenty of company. It was one of the worst games that Tyler Heroes had on the offensive end until late in the game.
Yeah.
Oladipo, other than his little third quarter spurt, could not make a shot. And Kyle was, I think, 1 for 7 in the game. So it was a miserable shooting game. I mean, it was like watching the Heat on offense last night. There were times where it felt like you're in the middle of a dentist appointment and the Novocaine wore off. It was painful, but they kept themselves in it. And I kept thinking, like, this game is so winnable if we could just make a few shots. And then they did, and the whole thing turned. And the Celtics at the end couldn't buy a shot, could not make a shot, including Tatum.
That's why I liked the win last night so much, because I can't sit here and tell you, I played a great game, beat a great team. No, they didn't. They did not play a great game. Like, they played great defensively, but to be able to win that game, like you said, since 2010, where they shoot 34, 35%, to be able to do that and win that game last night, that was the best part to me. They won a dirty, grimy game against a really good Celtic team. That's why I think it was a great win.
Yeah, listen, the Celtics are outstanding. Even without 3 starters, you see the way they play. Even under a young first-year head coach in Joe Mazzulla, well coached, disciplined, understand how to win, and they have some outstanding players. Personally, I think Jason Tatum is a for real MVP candidate, especially if they finish with the best record. But I don't care who they were missing. A win against them is a big positive, and Miami went 2-2 against them this year. So that was good. And, it's so hard to hold teams under 100 now, and the Heat have done it in 4 of their last 6 games. And what they weren't doing, what sunk the early part of the season? Losing at home. I mean, the Heat had so many blown opportunities at home, and now you look at it, the Heat's won 7 of their last 8 at home. And the only loss in that span was the 1-point game against Brooklyn. So I find that encouraging, playing better at home, playing better against the East. The defense is where you expected it would be. And the rebounding, which was awful early on, has really become a strength. It's 7 straight games where they've out-rebounded teams, and by 9 rebounds a game. And for a team that's struggling to score, Zaz, the offensive rebounds, really, really important. And the Heat's doing a good job with that.
Finally here, Eric, I love the feature that you guys do on Bally every game. I think it's every game, where you're doing like the throwback to the old players, and you're giving the stats and showing the highlights. I love being surprised about who you guys are showing that particular game. How are you guys coming up with, all right, let's do so-and-so this game? Is it just random? How are you doing it?
No, Ted Ballard, who's our vice president of broadcasting, among the most creative, hardest working, and most thoughtful executive producers in the NBA. He came up with that concept, and they put the whole thing together. And we just get to enjoy it each night and reminisce and reflect. I've been there the whole time, so I without any rehearsal at all. I don't even need to know who it is. I'm going to have a response and some thoughts on it. The other thing, I don't know if you've seen it, our social media department has done an unbelievable job. I don't know if you've seen the feature. It's called Story Time, and we have a current Heat player. Tyreek has done it. Tyreek Price of the Heat. Just outstanding pieces where you've got Duncan Robinson talking about Dan Marley, Victor Oladipo talking about Bashan Leonard, and Bam on Grant Long. And again, they're showing highlights of the old player, and it's narrated by a current player. And I have been just so enamored with those. I love those pieces as well as the ones that we're showing in the game. And it's all part of our celebrating our 35th year as a franchise and a Heat history that over the last 25, 28 years since Pat Riley got here has gotten so much richer, Zaz. So these are wonderful stories for us to tell and retell. And, for some of our younger fans, they're seeing some of these guys for the first time. Yeah. For our longtime fans, they get to enjoy it like you and I do.
It's so weird because as someone who grew up down here, and I got to see the birth of the franchise, for if you're a young, my son's 14, my older one, he could be watching the game and he'll see those highlights of Grant Long or, Steve Smith, and he's never seen these players. And to me, like, that's what it was to been like when I was his age. And I'm seeing highlights of the Dolphins from the 70s. Like, I never saw those guys, but that's like, does that ever strike you as strange? Wow, there's a whole generation of fans now who actually don't even know what, Steve Smith looks like. They had no idea. Like, it's got to be a little bit weird, right?
Well, it is. I mean, it's all part of the passage of time. And, for me, Zaz, I spend all my professional moments doing the same thing, constantly getting prepared for the next game and then enjoying each and every game. And that's how 34 and a half years of our franchise and my life has progressed. And to think back to the days of Ronnie Cycli and Sherman Douglas, I mean, this was 35 years ago. So I understand that people either forgot or never knew about those old school Heat players. And that's what I'm personally loving about Bam Adebayo's ascent, on the double-double list. The fact that Ronnie Cycli, our first ever draft pick out of Syracuse back in the 88 draft, 1988, still leads the franchise in double-doubles. I love that. And I love being able that's my responsibility. That's my job. And right now that's my gift, being an original employee of the franchise, to be a Heat ambassador. Whenever we see a former Heat player, whether he spent 20 years or one game, we're going to enjoy that visit. We're going to reconnect them to their time with Miami, and we're going to try to reconnect our fans to the players they may not know or the players they may have missed. And that's a unique position we're in, having been with the same team for 35 years now.
Excellent job, Eric. We'll all be watching on Friday night. Got a couple games coming up Friday and Sunday where it's like, let's keep beefing up this record. Orlando at home, then Sunday afternoon at the Hornets. Climbing the standings here, Eric. Climbing the standings.
Hey, trying to listen. Orlando, when you think it's going to be easy, it gets harder. The Magic are a lot better than their record, and they just got Jonathan Isaac back. They're athletic and they're pretty good. So I hope Miami can take care of those two games. And then you got at Cleveland and the first of 4 against the Knicks. The Heat are 2 behind Cleveland, 1 ahead of New York. Those games are all going to feel like playoff games. And don't you love that? Heat, Knicks with meaning, playing for something.
Yeah.
Those are going to be 4 incredible games. And I really believe this, the Heat is now, I think, 15-8. Or 15-7 since mid-December. I really believe with this sort of pennant race and jockeying for playoff positioning, and 4 games against the Knicks, 4 against Philly, another game against Indiana. I really think the best part of this 35th season is still to come.
Great job, Eric. Always appreciate you making the time for us. Thanks so much.
Zaz, best of luck with all your new endeavors. We miss you on the Heat broadcast. Respect your knowledge and your passion of the Heat. Then, now, and always. Thank you.
Thank you.